There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another Friday Reads. I said last week I didn't know if I'd be doing these every week, and I decided I definitely wanted to do one this week, and in large part because of the wonderful warm comments you all left for me last week and how much it means to you, and that made me realize that I'm getting a lot out of doing it too. So here we are. But I'm actually filming this early Thursday afternoon because my Friday is going to be a bit crazy. It's really a Thursday Reads and not so much about what I've been reading because I haven't been reading very much. But this week has been very dramatic in world events and I've been following it like a fiend. I keep getting advice from loved ones, don't watch the news so much. But that just is, I'm impervious to that advice. I always have been since I was 12 years old. I'm a news junkie and my mental health may take, and my good night's sleep might take a hit, but I wouldn't miss one little development ever. I'm spending 8 to 10 hours a day. You know, even when I'm supposedly working, teaching, I'm refreshing my Twitter. Saying, oh really? Refresh. So yeah, I'm just immersed, steeped in the news, and for better or for worse, that's just who I am, and that's how I deal with this kind of stuff. I remember in the immediate aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks, I was glued to CNN for about 48 hours, except for a bit of sleeping, and finally had to go out to buy some food or buy some groceries. And I remember walking down the street in Vancouver, where I was living at that time, and every time I looked up, I could see planes flying into all the buildings that I was looking up at. I thought, Sean, you have really overdone it here. But that's just a big part of who Sean the Book Maniac is. I am doing okay today, and thank you all for your concern. Like you, my emotional health is going up and down and all over the place. But today, I feel like not that things are getting better anywhere in the world. They definitely are not. Other than that maybe the numbers in Italy are coming down very slowly. But I feel energized to deal with whatever's coming. I think there will be a lockdown in Tokyo within the next week or so. I hope so, because people are not practicing anything that remotely resembles social distancing here like they are supposed to be, or even what the guidelines are different. I mean, the guidelines are 6 feet 2 meters. Tokyo, we would all fall into the sea if we had separated ourselves that far. It's impossible. But aside from masks, which don't work, little controversial topic, but I'm not going to expound on it here, nobody's really doing anything. School is going back in about a week. Jesus. At least they canceled that corrupt, what's the name of that corrupt event? It's not the Mafia convention. Oh, the Olympics have been canceled or postponed. So that's good. So now our national leaders maybe will stop lying to us about how widespread the infection is, because they are definitely lying to us about the numbers in Japan. What I have gleaned, and I'm not an expert, but I have done quite a deep dive, and it doesn't mean that the sources I found are right, but there's no other plausible explanation for me about why the numbers in Japan are so low compared to other countries. And what I found yesterday was that they are not testing people who present with pneumonia. They're not giving them a coronavirus test. They are treating them very well for pneumonia, and many of those patients recover, but they are absolutely not administering a coronavirus test, even after death. So the way to find out definitively whether that's where all the hidden coronavirus cases are would be to see, has there been a spike in pneumonia-related deaths recently in Japan? That information is not publicly available. They said, we only release pneumonia stats once every 3 years. Stay tuned. So that's where all the cases are, I'm sure. And call me a conspiracy therapist. Call me a conspiracy theorist. I just think it doesn't make any sense. They're not testing, and that's where they all are. So as of filming this video on Thursday afternoon, I am still going to work. I think it's kind of silly. Obviously, if the criminally inept mayor of Tokyo, Koike, does finally, much too belatedly shut Tokyo down, then I will not be going to work anymore. Until then, pending anything else, and I'm not going to go into any details, but, as of right now, I'm going to work. Stay tuned. So, Kenji had a family emergency this week, which just added another layer of stress to what we were both dealing with. We both weren't sure that we could cope with anything, but that only lasted 3 or 4 days and was completely resolved in the immediate term. So, taking a deep breath, and suddenly, even though there is a pandemic and the world is going down the toilet, we feel like, okay, we can deal with this. You will have seen my vlog that I filmed earlier today, but put up last night. This is confusing, the time thing, about hoarding food, so that happened. Oh, and my parents winter, I think I mentioned this last week, they winter in Victoria, and they just decided to go back to Saskatchewan early. And it was kind of a scary car trip. About 2-day drive from Victoria to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And, everybody's taking all these precautions. And, my parents are not spring chickens, and they made it home safe and sound. My sister had shopped for groceries, put them in the house, and they will not see anybody for 14 days. The whole family, my parents, my sister and I, and my adult niece, my nephew, I think, was still in bed, or he wasn't available. But the 4 of us had a Facebook video chat, and that was so incredible. I want to do more of that, because if we're going to be all isolating, we need to see each other and hear voices, and it was really emotionally sustaining. So we're going to have another big one this Sunday. All right, so I don't have much to tell you about books, but I did finish one book that is one of the best short story collections I have ever read, and that is Edward P. Jones's collection, Lost in the City. This was a buddy read, about a 6-week, maybe 5 or 6 week buddy read with Sonia over at An Enthusiastic Reader, and we both loved it. It's interesting. I would say about half of the stories we both loved, and the other half, one of us really liked it, the other one didn't like it quite so much, and that made for a fascinating buddy read. The stories in this collection were so strong. Every story was set in Washington, D.C. I believe that is where Jones lived or lives. And I would love to do a full review, because the way that certain themes, or even certain, not plot twists, something more subtle than a plot twist, were resonating between the stories was fascinating. But in all honesty, I don't think I have the concentration or groundedness to do justice to it as a review. So maybe later. Probably not, because I'd probably have to reread the collection. But I absolutely loved it. Please check it out. It's on Scribd. And I have started one new one, and I started it because I had it on Scribd. It's very short. It's a German novella, so read more German. It's not on my TBR. I'd kind of forgotten about it when I made my TBR for the Read More German Books challenge. And then I saw on Twitter that people were organizing a translated literature book club online, and that was their first choice. So I thought, oh, I've got it. And I read the first page, and I just fell in love with the writing, and have barely read very much more than the first page. I think I've read the first chapter and a half, and it is The Mussel Feast by Birgit van der Beek, translated from the German by Jamie Bullock. It's starting out really, the prose is mesmerizingly good. I haven't got a feel for what the story is, except that the father's coming home, I think from a business trip, and the mother and her kids are getting mussels ready because it's his favorite food. And in the description of that process, there are so many nuances and narrative back loopings that I'm entranced. I wish I had the focus I could have finished it by now. I don't. Even a 100-page novella, I like to read it over at least 2 weeks or 10 days. But I can't remember where I'm at in it. But very early days, starting out really good. So that's in progress. And I use the word progress very loosely. And then I haven't started anything new and haven't finished anything. And the only thing that I'm going to start possibly before you hear from me next, and maybe I won't have even started that. I hesitate to even say anything like that prospectively. Sometime in the next week or 10 days, I've forgotten exactly when, Britta Bowler and I will be starting a buddy read. I couldn't do the buddy read of the novel. I just can't do that kind of thing this month. April may be better. My buddy readers out there that I've got scheduled buddy reads, I'll be contacting you to say I don't know whether I can do it, but let's try. Britta and I had planned to do a buddy read of like a story a week of this short story collection. I said, why don't we just start that? Because I can read a story a week, no problem. And that is Various Miracles by Carol Shields. Carol Shields is an American-Canadian writer in that she moved to Canada, I think in her youth, like when she was a young woman, and Winnipeg is where she was. And this is the first thing that I ever read by Carol Shields. My copy, I think I've probably shown it to you in my Somewhere in a Box in Canada series of unboxing videos. In my 20s, she was one of my very most favorite writers, and I have hated or bailed on anything I've read by her in the last 3 years. So I'm a little bit nervous about trying this because I love this short story collection so much, but I'm hoping it reconnects me to her writing, and that those experiences that were so negative in the recent years were just anomalies, and that she still speaks to me, because these stories very much did. So Britta and I will be doing a story a week. I think there's about 20 stories. I forget how many. 20 stories. So it's going to be a long-term buddy read, and this book matches my blouse. Hey, well, here I am the next day, the actual Friday that this Good Friday Reads pertains to, and I'm just in the middle of editing the video and realized that I forgot another buddy read of a short story collection that will be starting in the coming days, and that is Edna O'Brien's collection of Fanatic Heart. I can't get the glare off that. There we go. And this is going to be with Sonia of An Enthusiastic Reader, because we had such a good time buddy reading the Edward P. Jones, and I told her what short story collections I had lying around the house, and this one appealed to her. So I think we're going to be starting this week as well. Again, a story a week, and this one's chunky, so stay tuned for my wrap-up around this time next year, perhaps. But I'm really looking forward to it, because I read one Edna O'Brien short story as one of the Faber Stories series of discussion videos with Doris that I really liked, and it was the first thing I'd ever read by Edna O'Brien. And I thought that I would start the Country Girls trilogy this year, but no, I'm going to start with this short story collection, and I'm really excited. Otherwise, I think we'll be into April, won't we? We will be into April by my next Friday Reads. I'm not going to prospectively talk about buddy reads or whatever. It would be just almost like jinxing it to say that I'm going to start some stuff, because I have no idea. So that's all I'll say. So to finish this Friday Reads, I am going to just give you what I sometimes do when I don't have much in a Friday Reads, like I haven't started, finished, or bailed on much. No bails this week. I haven't had the focus to bail. I'm just going to do a status report. That sounds geeky. A check-in about each of the books in progress. And please don't laugh at me about how many books I'm reading. The way my concentration's been going, these might be the only books that I read in 2020. So just in the order they're on my desk, and then the few other ebooks or audiobooks at the end. This is The Plague of Doves by Louise Erdrich. Recommended very highly, very, very passionately by Greg of Supposedly Fun. So that's why I acquired it, and that's why I started it. I've been reading it for about 3 weeks, and I'm 130 pages into a 300-page novel. So almost halfway. I absolutely love it. I've only read one other book by her, The Roundhouse, and this is so much better. The story is intricate. It's almost like a historical mystery, but the kind of mystery that I can deal with. It's rich about Native Americans and white settler Americans in a small town in North Dakota. And the Native Americans, many of them have ties back to Canada, to the Métis population, especially that fought alongside Louis Riel in the 1885 rebellion. So it's really, I just love it. I wish I could just sink my teeth into it and not finish it up in a hurry, but, I just miss it because I don't have the focus to dip into it more than about once a week recently. And I could echo that comment for many of the books in this pile. This is I think if this short 200-page novel continues to beguile me the way it has in the first 40 pages, I have discovered a new favorite writer. The prose in here is absolutely incredible. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's speechless, and, at the risk of repeating myself, I wish I could be reading it at least every day, 10 pages, and I'm not going to repeat that for the next few books. This is a buddy read with Adam of Memento Mori, Justine by Lawrence Durrell for Memento Mori-a-thon. I expect to finish it. In fact, I've promised. Adam and I have agreed that we're both having trouble reading at a normal pace. So it started out as a 7-day buddy read, and it's now going on maybe past 2 weeks. I'm on page 156 of a 225-page novel and expect to be finished by month's end. So this is going to be the main book that I'll be reading. If I'm going to do that, I have to get busy. I love it. It's unlike anything I've ever read. It makes me respect Adam for the first time that he likes it. Joke. Lawrence Durrell. I wouldn't want to read this kind of literature, this kind of writing style very often, but reading it for the first time, I want to finish the quartet over maybe 4 years. Immersed in this as well. This one also is knocking my socks off. Joseph Roth's The Radetzky March for the German Reading Challenge, translated from the German by Michael Hoffman. I am 70 pages into this, and every time that I read another 10 pages, which recently isn't very often, I just fall right back into the story. It's so good. Astoundingly good. How many extreme adjectives can I use instead of repeating the same extreme adjective throughout, Sean? I think I've been reading this since Memento Mori-a-thon was announced. Muriel Sparks' The Mandelbaum Gate, and I am on the home stretch with this. I'm on page 240. If you notice, my page numbers typically end in 0, because that's kind of how I like to read 10 pages a day and stop at the 0 page. Sean, you're such a nerd. So I have about 140 pages left to go. It's not knocking my socks off, but it is holding my interest. I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it. It's sitting at about a 4-star read. I'm having a much better experience of this Muriel Spark novel than any of the ones I've read other than The Driver's Seat recently. So this is a success. The Collected Short Stories of Helen Garner. This was a buddy read with Natalie of My Reading Days, and that has ended, but I am continuing to read it myself in fits and starts. And then stuff that I don't have in physical form. Samuel Richardson's Clarissa. I think it's like a 6,000-page novel. I'm doing it on audio. And breaking news, I have said in the past, it's 2 34-hour audiobooks, and I am just maybe halfway through the volume 1, so I'm 17 hours through volume 1, and then there was volume 2, but I recently realized, no, there's a volume 3 that's also 34 hours, so I hope to finish it before I die of old age. If I die younger than old age, I'm not sure I'm ever going to finish it, but I'm really loving it. I absolutely love it. John Kay's History of India. I must admit it's been about a month since I dipped into it. I was enjoying it, but I think I might have to let that one go. I admit I have one or two too many books on the go, and that one has suffered, so I think I'll leave it aside. I'm not announcing that. I might dip into it again just to see if I still feel connected to it, but I think it was too big of a sweeping history. I think it's about 800 pages. I've forgotten now, and I needed to start with, if anybody can recommend me a 300-page survey history of India that I could read instead, I would appreciate that. And then maybe I would try this later, because this one it's not intimidating, but it's too much, I think, for me right now anyway. The South African Botswana, is that the adjective for Botswanian? I don't know the adjective for Botswana. But Bessie Head, she's a South African writer who lived most of her life in Botswana. I found out once I started reading her novel, When Rain Clouds Gather, which is set in Botswana. And it's her first novel, and it shows that it's a first novel, but there's still a lot in it that I'm enjoying. And I'm quite a ways through it and haven't picked it up in a couple of weeks, so I need to get back to it. I expect that I will finish it. And the audio anthology of Irish women's short stories, The Long Gaze Back, edited by Sinead Gleeson. I was doing it on my exercise bike every day, and now the news is... I can't take myself away from the news, so I'm listening to news when I'm on my exercise bike. I still am on the exercise bike, but I've put the anthology aside just for a couple days. I think I'll be ready to get back to it soon, and I was really, really enjoying it. I've got my Goodreads open, but it doesn't display the percentage finished like it does on my iPad, so I can't remember. I think I'm 20% in or something. And finally, the last one that's still in progress is another ebook, and this is for Read Dorisathon. Doris Lessing's collection of essays, Prisons We Choose to Live Inside, and I am enjoying it. Don't dip into it very often. Expect to continue with it. So that's what I've got in progress. Do you think I'll finish all of these? Do you think I'll read anything other than these until year's end? It depends on whether the world settles down or not. If I get locked down, Tokyo gets locked down, and I can keep a semblance of peace of mind, I could knock these off a lot quicker than I realize. But anyway, that's what's going on. I hope you're safe. The golden rule of social distancing is if you can smell each other's farts, you're standing too close. Thanks for watching.